among other things. We also make GPUs for use in the cloud, for AI acceleration. So that our GPUs are used quite a bit right now. They're being used in supercomputers and tied together through many gaming machines to try to throw workloads to look at the COVID-19 virus and see if there's ways that we can try to cure that. And they use GPU power to do that because GPUs are good at that type of math. So lots of different applications, but the application we'll be looking at here is gaming and creative. We have over 200 million GeForce gamers out in the market. That's a global number. If you look at Steam, 85% of the players that play on Steam use an Nvidia-based GPU. So very, very strong penetration overall in the gaming market. And just the overall community and interactions. Looking through Newzoo, we have some of the largest groups out there and interaction as far as GeForce and our community through Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, different platforms like that. What I want to talk to you today about is, when you're out selling and we're talking about gaming PCs and high-end premium PCs, why one of the things you want to consider is the GPU first. The GPU really is one of the most important components in a gaming PC, and we're going to tell you a little bit why and show the examples of how a GPU makes a difference, and then why should consumers, consider a GPU first when making a gaming computer decision. So here's a example, and I hope, can you guys see this clearly? This is a screenshot from Alienware, from the Dell.com website with Alienware systems, representing three M15s here. And if you look at the configurations, CPU, memory are exactly the same, and the chassis is exactly the same, but you have 3 price points here. And if you look, you have 3 performance levels in the frames per second. And the thing that's different in each one of these platforms is the GPU. And by moving to different classes of GPU, that is really where you're going to see your gaming performance increase, is by moving up the stack in our overall GPU. So it really shows that the GPU is what's driving your gaming performance. And if you want a better gaming performance on more frames per second, you would consider increasing your GPU when you're making your buying decision. And the other things kind of do stay static right now for the most part. Intel and AMD have done a great job on CPU. They're great and powerful for most creative and gaming workloads. But then when we throw a different level of GPU at it, you'll see vastly different performance levels. And I have some other benchmarks later to show you those performance levels. Also with GPU, a lot of times when people talk about gaming, they talk about your standard 1080p high definition gaming type of experience. But with the GPU, we can really drive higher resolutions. You may have heard of 1440p gaming, and you're starting to see more and more screens that are above HD at 1440p, and even 4K gaming. We're seeing those monitors and those panels on laptops, and we can drive on the high end of our graphics. We can drive a 4K gaming experience as well to really extremely high fidelity. And then just looking into the future, there'll be games that, and displays that could even possibly be driving 8K type of experiences. So the GPU really allows you to drive these higher resolution type of experiences. When we talk about GPU first, the 2 big things in the markets, and we'll go in depth a little bit later in the presentation, is, you think about a GPU first if you want superior frames per second, if you want more frames per second in your gaming, and more resolution, and if you want more compute power for doing 3D rendering and creative workloads and applications. And I'll go further into what those creative applications are. They're not your hobbyist, taking pictures on your iPhone and adding a filter. It's more for people in like the freelance market, that are creators, that are streaming, that are actually using their computer for creative to as their life, right? To generate revenue and to generate customers. A GPU would be a really good consideration for them as well. And gaming a gaming laptop and then products which we're dubbing as our Nvidia Studio products are products that people like that can use in those markets. So, GPU first, GeForce provides the most features and flexibility for a gamer. Really, one of the most important things for GeForce and Nvidia is our Game Ready driver program. Anytime a game is released, on the day of release, Nvidia issues a new driver, and the driver is what tells the GPU how to handle its workload. And we work with all the major game publishers and developers, and we get early access to games, and we make sure that our GPU is optimized and going to interact with the game very, very well. And anytime a game is released, you will see an announcement saying NVIDIA Game Ready driver ready. We call it day zero, since it's ready either the day of or the driver may be updated before the actual game release. So you're ready to go. Really big advantage. We've been doing this for years, and we'll issue anywhere, on a slow year, if there's not a lot of games, 20 something drivers to, if it's very busy, you'll see 30, 40, 50 drivers a year. You'll get a notification on the bottom of your screen if you're running a GeForce card, and it will do the update in the background and say, reboot to take advantage of the new driver. So we actually got that seamless and very clean as well for the install process. Another thing that's included with all of GeForce GPUs is GeForce Experience software. The GeForce Experience does a couple key items that I'd like to talk about. One is with a single click, GeForce Experience can analyze your system, so see what kind of processor, memory, hard drive, and GPU, of course, and what resolution you're running at, and it can optimize settings in all major games to have them perform at the best performance level. And in fact, there's a slider in the optimization tool, and you can choose: do I want better image quality or do I want better performance? And we'll go in. If you've ever been in a game, you see all the settings with AF, AA, different types of shading. We can go in and we make those changes for you to optimize the performance level that you've selected across the suite of games that are installed on your PC. A really cool tool for people that may be newer to PC gaming but want to get the best experience overall. We also have a built-in capture and share software, and you can see on the screenshot here, we have the ability to record, we have the ability to broadcast to YouTube, Twitch, to Facebook Live, so you can broadcast directly from your gameplay, and you also can capture directly as well, so you can save and then share it later on via email or via a sharing service like Dropbox or Drive. Really cool, built-in, comes with every GeForce GTX and RTX software, and we're really seeing people take advantage of that in driving streaming. And the third thing is, we have a tool called Ansel, and a lot of people love the artwork in games and love certain shots in games. And Ansel allows us to capture screenshots at really high resolution, and the user can do it at any angle. So as you know, a game is rendered in 3D. You're actually able to pause the game, take a snapshot, and then actually rotate 360 degrees and be able to take a really cool high resolution snapshot. And we have a lot of people sharing those game images, and we also have the people who are making art. It's very high resolution, so you can send it out and you can put it on a canvas and things like that. So really cool utilities inside of GeForce Experience. Right now we have two major product families in our GeForce gaming system, and they vary pretty differently. First, I'll start with GeForce GTX. GeForce GTX has been around about 12 years, 13 years. People are very familiar with that brand, and it was our enthusiast gaming brand for years. and we continue to ship this, and it's a great DirectX 1112 mainstream gaming brand, and we continue to drive great performance in that segment. Last year, we introduced GeForce RTX. GeForce RTX brought ray tracing to the PC gaming and to consumer gaming for the first time. Ray tracing is a different way of handling lighting in a scene, and it's more realistic. So it's not pre-rendered, it's not computed. It's actually computed from the light source. So it's very realistic to how a real world lighting and shadowing would work versus the way in traditional games have done in the past has been rasterized, and it's been basically fake lighting. They give you lighting, but it's what's approximated, not really what would be based on your environment and based on your lighting source. It's very hard technology to add. We've added special cores into our GPU, and then we've gotten the community to build games around that. You'll start hearing a lot more about ray tracing coming in the future. You've probably heard rumblings that the next generation consoles will have some sort of ray tracing support. So therefore, that will bring ray tracing to the mainstream. It'll bring ray tracing to the consumer's eye very quickly. And just like any other time when you think PC gaming, we think the ray tracing experience and fidelity will be much better on PC than what you're going to get on your general console. So looking at the desktop cards in GeForce RTX, we right now this is the currently shipping lineup. We do have some products in between that are older. If you see the three in the middle, where it says 2060 Super, 2070 Super, and 2080 Super, those were just released a couple months ago, and they are what we call kind of mid-generation kickers. Gave a little bit more performance to the 2060, 2070, and 2080 in those segments. The standard 2070 still ships in the market. I believe Dell and Alienware are still shipping products with that. It's a great card and continues to fill a market. Our flagship product is our RTX 2080 Ti. That continues to be the most performant GPU available on the market. And the entry is still 2060. We left the non-super variant as well to hit a great price point for ray tracing. In GTX, we have a couple products, and we are currently shipping GTX 1650 Super, 1660 Super, and 1660 Ti. Three products sitting in the GeForce GTX category, and the difference is that these cards do not support ray tracing, and we'll talk about some AI in the future. They also don't support some of the advanced AI features that we have in RTX. Great gaming, great mainstream gaming, hitting a price point. Usually you see these in complete desktop systems at a $899 and below type of configuration, but gives you a really great entry gaming experience. The beauty of desktop is as you get more advanced, you can go out, buy a graphics card, and upgrade later. That's kind of the difference with desktop. When we look at GeForce laptop lineup, it is a little bit different, and I do like to show it in this format. 2019, so we just did a refresh on April 2nd of our lineup for GeForce laptop. We introduced two super cards to the lineup. So if you see on the top end there, we have 2080 Super and 2070 Super. We decided to keep 2070 and 2060 Super in our lineup, but we just brought them down to a different price point level. So Dell and Alienware, you will start to see pricing of the 2060 products start to drop into a lower price band, and it shouldn't be trivial. We should see $100 type price drops, and maybe even more in certain platforms for 2060. And we do expect to see 2060 somehow in the market on some platforms starting at $999 and extremely low configurations. Dell Alienware, you guys do premium products, so you'll probably be above that price point, but we definitely do think that $1199 is a great price point for a pretty richly configured RTX 2060 laptop. And our new entry point at the bottom is GTX 1650. So now we used to have our 1050 product, which shipped for almost 2 years. That product will start to be replaced with 1650 in the entry at that price point, and we'll continue to ship that moving forward. But your price point for 1650 should drop as well, and you should see starting price points between 599 and 699. I want to talk about a little bit about RTX. When we launched RTX, Nvidia, we did get a lot of flack because we introduced a product that had very little support. Um, you know, we needed to build an install base to get developers and publishers to build titles. And we had them in the pipeline, and we were working with the developers and publishers to build games, but it does take time. If you look today, um, most major games that get released will have some sort of ray tracing engine built into them. We have over 30 titles available today with some sort of ray tracing and AI acceleration, and we've shipped globally over 15 million RTX GPUs. So we really do have a good install base now, and an addressable install base for ray tracing and RTX graphics. Overall, the again, with consoles coming in the fall with some sort of ray tracing, all titles and all developers are building with a ray tracing engine. Again, we think the fidelity and the performance will be much better on PC than what you're going to get as a baseline experience on a console. And that's really what the PC gamer looks for, is the better experience, the higher fidelity experience. Um, our ad campaign is called RTX It's On because you'll see in the next slide we show things with RTX off and RTX on. So ray tracing turned off, and then the same title with ray tracing turned on. This is a scene from Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk is a title that has been pushed out a couple times, but we believe will launch now in September. I know that Dell has some pretty close ties with promotion for Cyberpunk, and it is one of the most anticipated games that have been coming in many, many years. We really do believe that Cyberpunk could be one of those games like Grand Theft Auto 5, like Witcher, where people go out and buy a new computer or buy a new GPU to play the game at its great experience. So we're really excited about it. And you can see this is just a scene from one of the Cyberpunk scene where you can see the glows of the neon signs off the floor, just really, really realistic light and refraction and shadows. The big announcement we made this week is around Minecraft. Minecraft is the world's largest game, 176 million copies sold across all the different platforms. And we worked with Microsoft to add ray tracing to Minecraft to bring more realism to this world, to this world. And Minecraft really is more than a game; it's an environment, it's a world, and it's a lifestyle. You see a lot of popular culture take different items and give it the Minecraft treatment. Even The Simpsons had an episode where they look like Minecraft characters. So this is what a typical Minecraft scene looks like without ray tracing. Very flat, no depth to the water, no shadows. It's a very basic world. The same scene with ray tracing turned on, with RTX turned on. You can see translucence in the water. You can see the reflections in the water. You can see shadows. You can tell where your light source is coming from. Really, really different experience overall. Another scene here, just a room with a skylight, right? You would think it'd be more lit. There's some water in the room. This is what your typical scene looked like before this week with the announcement of RTX added to Minecraft. This is what the same scene looks like today. Night and day difference, really no pun intended here, where you're seeing the light come in through the skylight. You're seeing light come up underneath through the water that bleeds up and in, shadows all over the place, reflections, refractions. Just a really different environment overall. We're really excited about Minecraft because it brings ray tracing technology to the masses, and it really it brings it to an audience where everybody can experience it. The other thing is if you're doing a demo in store or doing a, you're able to demo Minecraft. The big issue we have a lot of times with some great technologies in games is, games can tend to be violent, and it's very hard to demo a lot of technologies in games. Call of Duty has ray tracing, Control has ray tracing, and it's hard to show those games because of some of the violence in today's world. We don't want to display that, in public. So a title like Minecraft can take it and really show off technologies in the essence. The latest games that we've introduced, Control, is a great game. If you're gamers out there and you haven't played it, Control is kind of one of those under the radar games. Got a lot of awards at the Game Awards this year. It came from nowhere, under the radar. People love the experience. Call of Duty Modern Warfare has ray tracing built in. Great experience. Wolfenstein added their patch for ray tracing, and of course Minecraft, that we talked about. And we have two great titles coming. Cyberpunk and Watch Dogs are two that have announced their ray tracing capabilities. It's going to be interesting this year, with no E3, to see how the new titles are announced. We anticipate a lot more titles. We can't talk publicly about titles that haven't been announced publicly, but we can tell you that there's a lot of titles coming in the fall that will have ray tracing capabilities, and they'll just be great experiences on PC and GeForce RTX. One of the other things, and this is hard, and I'll send the source files to this screenshot as well. Um, Part of RTX graphics cards, there's a ray tracing engine, a hardware ray tracing engine built onto RTX. There's also what we call tensor cores for AI. And the reason those are on that card is our GPU, like I said in the beginning, is used in other markets. So the RTX GPU that we use in gaming is also used in deep learning, in AI, in self-driving cars, in supercomputers. And those tensor cores help with deep learning and AI. Um, Through our experience in those other markets, we were able to find a reason to use those AI cores in gaming. And what we've done is we've created a technology called DLSS. DLSS stands for Deep Learning Supersampling. And to put that in layman's terms, we use AI to increase game performance and enhance image quality. So really easy. What we do is we render a game at a lower resolution than your screen is natively, and then we use the AI cores on the graphics card, the RTX card, to scale it up. So you get better performance because you're rendering at a lower resolution, and AI actually knows how to clean up the scene and actually make it look better than your standard rendering. So when I send this out, when you look at this scene, and I don't know if you can see it on the way it's presented today. First of all, the numbers in the box there. If you have DLSS off and you're rendering at 1080p, you're getting about 36 frames per second in Control on this particular scene. With DLSS turned on, because the game supports it, you're seeing a frame rate of 61 frames per second. And if you really look at the scene up close, the image is actually sharper. The words on the posters are razor sharp. You can almost read the words on the file cabinets. The leather texture on her shoulder is very defined. Features on the gun are very clear. So it's an image quality enhancement as well, because AI knows what to clean up and what to enhance. So it's a really cool technology. The 2.0 version we announced about 3 weeks ago. Press has been all over it. We anticipate a lot of games in the fall supporting this technology. And what I want to show you is overall performance. I know you guys a lot of times want to see what is the performance of the different GPUs in the stack. So this is normalized to a 1080p experience, and you can see where our old 1050, our old friend 1050 started as a normalized performance, and then moving up the stack in GTX. That's the light green is your your standard rendering performance. So you can see the performance increases you get as you move up the GPU stack. The darker green color is with DLSS turned on. So the performance enhancement you get by using the AI tools in the games. This benchmark is an average of 5 games that have DLSS 2.0 turned on already. And if you purchase an RTX 2060, in games that support DLSS, you're actually going to get performance like a 2070 Super. So you're going to get performance that is really two GPU classes ahead. There's a lot of things you can do with that. Either you can continue to game at 1080p. You could turn more features up and try to get better fidelity, higher fidelity graphics. Or you could go and try to game at a higher resolution. So maybe you don't need all the performance that a 2070 Super gets you. Maybe you'd be happy with a 60 frame per second performance. So you want to drive up your resolution and things like that. There's a lot of things you can do with that extra performance, and that performance is free, provided by RTX. Like I said, the game does have to support it. DLSS 2 was announced 3 weeks ago. We have about 5 to 6 titles that are ready today. Control is one of them. Minecraft is one of them. And coming in the fall, we anticipate a lot of titles continue to support this technology and really get you some free performance in RTX. So yeah, here's some of the titles that we've announced already, and DLSS also is built into the Unreal Engine as well this past week. So any game that's built in on the Unreal Engine is able to take advantage of DLSS 2.0 very easily. Another thing about the GPU is there's basic gaming, and then there's people that are competitive gaming. And we're running a campaign now called Frames Wins Games. Anybody who's a gamer out there knows that at one point 30 frames per second was kind of a acceptable gaming experience. Then that went up to 60 frames a second. 60 frames a second is your acceptable gaming experience. Now in the world of competitive gaming, in the PUBG, Fortnite type of environments, and CS:GO environments, frame rate is extremely important. And moving 100 plus frames per second, even in extreme competitive gaming, 200 frames per second plus is extremely important and actually gives the player an advantage. And a discrete GPU is really how you get to those performance levels. These are the games we're seeing played. These are global play titles. I know they vary a little bit different from what we've seen from other vendors, but this is what's been playing on our platform. League of Legends, of course, is always number one globally. But you see CS:GO in there. You see PUBG. You see Fortnite. Really competitive games. And 61% of our gamers play competitive games every week. So they may dabble, go back and forth between other types of games as well. World of Warcraft. They may go into Grand Theft Auto again. But competitive gaming is extremely important overall. And why more frames per second matter? More frames per second means smoother interaction with your game. So you're easier to track your targets. You have reduced distracting effects. So you have less shadowing, less tearing, because the frames are updating at a faster rate. And frankly, you'll see things earlier. If your screen is only refreshing every 60 times a second, somebody running at 144 times a second or 240 times a second, they'll see things faster. So your reaction time can be faster, and that's a big advantage for competitive gamers. So and it's a big advantage over console. So you'll see a lot of console players move over to PC, play at high refresh rates, and their competitive advantage is definitely seen. Here's another example showing easier to track targets and animations, and how much further you see something in a scene by having a high refresh rate. So you can just see your distinct advantage. It may not seem like a lot. Competitive gamers, milliseconds are down to the times of reaction times from the time they see something to the time that the trigger's pulled. So really, really big advantages in competitive games. We'll send a lot of links out there. Linus Tech Tips did a test and said, hey, is it actually better? There's a lot of press out there. We're doing a lot of campaigns about it. They did kind of a third party look at it. Is 240 hertz game better? And he came away, yes. It'll make you a better gamer. Is it going to make you a great gamer if you're not a good gamer? No, but it'll make you, at your experience level, you will definitely be better than you were at a lower refresh rate, at a higher refresh rate. Shroud is another competitive gamer, and he said if you're not gaming at a high resolution, are you really gaming? So really driving this new high refresh, high frames per second gaming, and really the only way to do that is to drive that with a discrete GPU, and GeForce RTX is at the top of that performance level. One other thing I want to talk about, shifting gears, about a year ago we introduced a product line called Nvidia Studio, and for the most part, gaming PCs are great PCs for creators as well. GPUs accelerate quite a bit of the applications for creators. You see some on the screen here. I'm going to show you another screen with a lot more applications that the GPU accelerates. But basically, GPU acceleration means time saved. Either you can do more in a day, give you more free time, bring on more customers. So it's really important. And the gaming PCs were out there, but people weren't considering a gaming PC as a creative. I mean, we all know we sell against it all the time. The default is a Mac, right? But Mac, if you look at the technology in a Mac, it really is quite antiquated, and it is quite old, especially around the GPU side. So it's something that we're working to educate the market, and we have this Nvidia Studio program that talks about general creative applications using the GPU. Really, where we look at the GPU accelerating, and especially RTX accelerating, are photorealistic 3D animations, and that has used ray tracing for years. So being able to do this on a laptop, being able to do it at your own desk is new to people. In the past, to do photorealistic 3D animation, you would send it out. You've heard the term render farm. You would send out your workload out to a server. It would render and then send it back to you. Now with RTX and the advancements we made with hardware ray tracing, you're able to do that all on your local machine. So really, really cool. Just a difference in the ability to work in a local environment. AI has a lot of enhancements in repetitive tasks. So artificial intelligence will learn things that you do, and if you have to do the same thing to 100, 200 images, AI will learn and do it for you. Really big advantage and time saver. So if you're editing the same thing out of a scene, out of a lot of pictures, you do it once, AI can learn and then repeat that task for you, so you don't have to do that, saving you the time. And then ultra high quality video. The GPU is able to edit 8K video real time, something that wasn't able to be done just a year ago. So really, really brings an advantage to professional videographers that are out in the field, being able to work with their native video at the intended resolution using RTX. So really big advantages. Like I said, in gaming, when we came out with RTX, it was a new technology for games. So the game engines had to be the technology. They added the game engine. The game developers had to learn how to program for ray tracing. In the creative environment, hardware acceleration and RTX, like I said, ray tracing has been around for a long time. It's just where it was rendered. It was rendered out in the server farm. But all these titles support ray tracing acceleration. So it really is something that the consumer, that a creator consumer can use. There's just a lot of education that we need. So if a customer comes up and says they're a creator, um, you do want to direct them to something with a GPU. And if they say they do 3D modeling, high resolution video, a lot of repetitive, high resolution tasks, a GeForce RTX GPU is a great solution for them. And this is, we're talking about, we're talking about selling against Mac, and nobody's going to sell. I mean, Mac has a great install base, and is very loyal. So trying to dig at it is not always the best approach, and I think we all know that. So the way we want to do it is just around productivity, and these are some applications. Video editing, for example. You can see the performance difference, and the time saved, versus the middle bar there is Mac, and then the bottom bar is just no GPU, just doing the rendering on a CPU, which is a misnomer. A lot of people, a strong CPU is extremely important to a consumer. So, Core i7, a Ryzen 7, a Core i9, a Ryzen 9, those are important, um, you know, important pieces to a creative application. But a GPU also is needed for a lot of the applications to enhance and to see performance. And that's what you're seeing there, is you're seeing the ability, for the GPU to accelerate. The other two on the 3D rendering side, of course, the GPU, will cut rendering times down considerably, and that's actual time saving. So something that would take 25 minutes takes 4 minutes when you're rendering on a 2080 GPU, and that's the way you talk to a Mac user. That's the way you talk, to somebody that imagine saving that kind of time in a day, and that's just one task. If you do that 50 times a day, um, you know, the term I use is, I say, we go from overtime to happy hour, right? So you save yourself a couple hours in a day, and you get out of the office early. So this is the way we're going to communicate, to the market. We're communicating to the market through, a lot of the ISVs. So we communicate through the applications themselves, and people that are training, people on these applications. We enable them with RTX-based laptops and desktops, and they educate their classes and say, hey, look at the amount of time saved, by using this technology, and it's available today. So really, just, it's something we're continuing to grow. Um, you know, I got to be careful. There are products, Dell, Alienware, you have that you're shipping today. There's additional products coming later in the year, which are going to be great products for this creator market. I just want to wrap up. There are a lot of synergies between Nvidia and Dell Alienware. Your the G series of products, feature, GeForce, GTX and RTX products. Alienware, has been one of the leaders in driving high-end RTX, systems overall, and even XPS, in the premium PC space. It carries a good assortment of GeForce, to bring better quality graphics and gaming, to those markets as well. So there's never a lack of GPU, assortment through Dell's products, and we thank you for that. I think it's a really good, synergy overall. Uh, just to remember the products, so our GeForce RTX and GeForce GTX products, are our consumer products. I didn't talk much about it because I am really focusing on consumer, but we also have a NVIDIA Quadro brand, and if you see that, that's really targeted at enterprise and commercial markets. Has a lot of the same benefits, that we've been talking about here on GeForce, but it has extra management, capabilities for IT departments. It has, drivers that are a little bit more stable because ID departments don't want things being updated. But we do have, a line of products, and Dell has a line of products that addresses that market as well. So if you hear Quadro, that's really focused at more the professional space, the commercial and enterprise space. GeForce and RTX and GTX are really focused on the consumer and the prosumer type of environments. One of the other things that I don't know if you guys know, but we'll get this up to you. It's a great learning tool that we provide to all of our customers, and it's called Nvidia Knowledge. Nvidia Knowledge is our learning portal. So, today I went high level over a lot of technologies. In the Nvidia Knowledge portal, you can deep dive and learn a lot more about a lot of these technologies. You can learn more about what we're doing in laptop to help save battery, to help drive thinner and lighter laptops through our Max-Q technology. What DLSS is, and how it works. There's all these different types of classes built into our knowledge tool. If you really want to learn a lot more about these technologies, can't cover it all in an hour presentation. So it's something that we have a learning portal. There's also prizes, pricing for certain classes as well, and being able to work yourself up ranks and things like that. The application works on PC, works on mobile devices. It's very interactive, a lot of video content. It's something we really would love for you to sign up and take a look at and drive through. And that's what I have today from an NVIDIA GeForce side. I think I can open up to questions. We have about 10 minutes. Does anybody out there have any questions? I don't know if I'm smiling, if I'm looking at you, I'm staring with a dead stare at my little guy here. It's very odd to look at the audience here.
I had a quick question about graphics cards relating to things in the education space for like engineers and such.
Yeah.
One of the big cards that we push is the Quadro card.
Yeah.
But always get the question about, what if I have a GTX 1080 or anything like that? For the new series, what would be kind of a good standard card that you would recommend in like the 20 series?
So what I can tell you, one of the other differences between Quadro and GeForce is the way products are built. And Quadro class products are made for a different workload. They're made to work at different temperature grades. They're made to work 24/7. So that's why if there's somebody who wants to do 24/7 rendering, they want to put it in a server chassis, things like that. Quadro is the product you look at. If you're a consumer and it's just something you're running workloads on, GeForce would probably be okay for your personal use. If you're education, you're building a data center lab, or you're building a shared lab, Quadro, you want to do it because the way the product's built and the way the product's supported, it's made to work in those type of environments, in a shared 24/7 operation environment. And that's one of the big differences. Not necessarily performance. It's not necessarily the way you use the product. It's the workload. It's the guarantee. It's the way the product's built. All the components on the product are built at a very different workload type as well. Does that make sense?
So it's basically made for, like, I'm just trying to make sure I have it right. It's basically like you can slap it in a server and it can have multiple users.
That's right, and those server environments are a lot harsher than a typical consumer market, right? Have you ever been in a server room? Space, airflow, things like that, and then just operating. It's not necessarily the GPU, but everything else on the card takes consideration to operating at different temperatures and at different time levels. So the capacitors, resistors, everything on the board is made to work at a commercial grade versus a consumer grade. If you're gaming 24/7, you got a good life.
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question. This is Remy from the North Atlantic. So a lot of your ray tracing information you gave us were games that have came out in the last calendar year or two.
Yes.
So customers who already have these games, is there like a over-the-air update that's coming? Do they have to buy a new product? Like, how does that work for these updates to come to things like Control or Minecraft?
Yeah, so the games themselves either they include them in a patch or they shipped with it. Like Control, for example, shipped with ray tracing enabled. Now, ray tracing is for Nvidia, that RTX class of product. There is hardware to accelerate ray tracing. So without that hardware, without that board or GPU in a laptop, your ray tracing experience is not going to be very good. So you do need an RTX class of product. Now you don't need to rebuy the game. You don't, if the game supports ray tracing, it's either going to be patched in or it's going to be in the game when you get it. For example, Minecraft today, the beta came out this week, and it's a download that you have to upgrade in your Minecraft software, and ray tracing will be enabled. But you do need, I mean, the hardware is the big part of it as well. So either you do an update to your hardware, or it's for people buying a new PC on a future-proof your new PC.
Thank you so much.
Well,
I have another question also. So
yes.
before the whole world shutdown, there were
Yeah.
hints. There were hints that Nvidia was coming out with a new 3000 series. Is there any information on that?
So it's hard to talk about new products. Of course, if you look at our typical refresh timeline, we are due for something because of the way the world is right now. It's probably not known right now. It's really hard to discuss that right now because there've been a lot of changes to when things are going. Typically the way we do a launch, desktop would launch first, and then laptop usually follows about 6 months behind, and that's just because of the time of development. So I would think if anything, you would see it on desktop, first, and I don't anticipate it, anytime in the next month or two. It would be back half of the year at the earliest, if anything.
Yeah, but I wasn't only just stating, asking whether it was going to be in other products, but just the graphics card standalone. Because
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It would be at the earliest. It would be back half of the year. But right now we can't. We really don't. We don't have anything to talk about. Is at the earliest, and that's just based on a hunch, based on typical timelines.
All right, thank you.
Hey Frank, I had a question as well.
Yes.
Hi, this is Anthony from the military team, and I'm not really too sure if you can actually answer this or just there's any guidelines, but is there any key points or differences in some of the third-party NVIDIA graphics cards and just the standalone NVIDIA graphics cards?
No. I mean, everybody has their tweaks. But as far as what they can do baseline, there's a minimum that they can do, right? So nobody will underperform what our brand promise is. All the other brands, they do overclocking. They may use special memory. They may use a special cooler to try to get better performance out of it. Some will use a cooler that make it quieter. Some will make a cooler that will make it faster. They'll make it bigger so that you can overclock it more. The one thing that we do